focus, determination, passion, stamina, and the will to win. The end result, the Rick Motec Sports Car Series. Extreme Motorsports brings you the Rick Motec Sports Car Series, brought to you by Rick Motec, high-performance sim racing equipment, and by Proforma, Elite Texas Graphics, live Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Back to Monday night action for the Extreme Motorsports Rick Motec Sports Car Series for Season 15, round number 6 here from Sonoma in California in the United States of America. It's one of many beautiful circuits over at California. It joins Long Beach, it joins Laguna Seca, and many more, of course, too. There is the track length on screen, just under 4 kilometers. About 2.5 miles in length. And of course, no winds out there to challenge the drivers, but plenty of elevation change at Sonoma. It's up to about 48 meters. Most of it's in that first sector. The last sector you can see on screen now in the background is quite flat, of course, but we are using that cup course layout. So we're going to go straight through to the carousel, of course. We don't skip the carousel at all. That's also a portion of the circuit we use in rallycross racing. And then the lovely S's section towards the back part of the lap. And then the best overtaking spot is that hairpin on the left-hand side of the track map. You're going to see a lot of drivers try to lunge it through there and pull off a move where it might elsewhere be impossible. So Jonathan Swan in the commentary booth, Tyler Maxson alongside me. And Tyler, welcome back to Sonoma. And we were discussing this track just a few minutes ago and how the fact that it looks like it's based in the Texas deserts, but in the winter times and most of the rest of the year, this track is quite green to everybody.
Yeah, whenever I was there in June, this was a very green and luscious, very nice track, actually. It looks a little bit to what you can see over to the right-hand side of your screen, just through the hills there. It is green when it's in the summertime and in the wintertime, but it does kind of get to this very gray state whenever it does go to whenever all the grass dies out. It kind of gets to this very ugly brownish gray color, but yeah, it can be a very nice track nonetheless whenever it's nice and sunny and there's more rain coming through. But it's a beautiful track to race at. It's so much fun, and it's also a very technically challenging circuit for these guys to race on.
And it'll be a good race coming up today, of course. 60 minutes of action and a track that we'll get a closer look at in today's track guide.
Welcome, everyone, to Sonoma Raceway, located here in Sonoma, California. Great to have you with us as we provide you your track guide today in the Ford Mustang around this 2.2-mile road course. A road course that broke ground in 1968, and its first race was an SCCA Enduro event held on December 1st of that same year. This course is a real challenge for drivers with its 12 corners and 160 feet of elevation changes. We are in for a ride. As we get going here, moving up onto the front straightaway out of turn 12, a short straightaway here at Sonoma. We cross the stripe and approach turn 1. Slight left-hander as we come out of here, wide open up the hill. Going to lift on throttle, get that car to the left because this is going to put us into turn 2. A very tight right-hander. Real careful coming over that crest there with the throttle. This will bring us down into turn 3. Want to let that car roll up over the crest. Blind entry again. One of the toughest corners, turn 4. Right-hander that drops off, easy on the throttle. Back down another hill into turn 5. Very fun section here. Up over a blind entry into turn 6. More of a carousel type turn that brings you downhill to the left out onto the drag strip of Sonoma. The longest straightaway here at Sonoma. And not a very long straight at that. Into turn 7, down through the gears, into second gear. This is a double apex 180. Very difficult turn to get right. A lot of overtaking opportunities back there at 7. This brings us into the famous S's here at Sonoma. A lot of tricky footwork to get through here. Into turn 8. More roll back to throttle, up over the crest, up through the gears, down into turn 9. Fast left-hander. This brings us into the sweeper. Turn 10. Getting back to throttle there. Bring us down into turn 11, a hard 180. Heavy on the brakes. Drivers will look for overtaking opportunities on entry back there. Up out of 11, through the gears, around turn 12, and this will bring us back out onto the front straightaway. That is your track guide for Sonoma Raceway.
So that's the beautiful track guide by Kevin Ford himself, who'll be racing in the GS class this afternoon. Now, if you're new to the series, we have 2 classes of cars, the GS and the ST branded classes. Now, the GS incorporates your Ford Mustang. The ST incorporates your Mazda MX-5. And here are the championship standings on screen. It's Eero Nom who dominates the series. It doesn't look like it on points, but he's yet to be beaten in a race here in the opening 5 rounds. He has 5-round wins to his name, and he has a comfortable 21 points advantage on Kevin Ford himself. The open standings for GS, though, include a slightly different list of drivers, just a bit shorter, but it's Lucas Ford, another Ford there, Tyler, in the Ford, leading the open standings. Rigged or not rigged?
I can't say rigged because Kevin Ford is not leading the GS Pro standings.
Yeah, exactly. They
can't
would
call
give it
rigged
away
yet,
if he
but
did.
it's definitely a odd coincidence.
Certainly is. So Lucas Ford's been driving quite well. Cameron Martineau, I have to say, has impressed me in the opening class. So good stuff from Cameron Martineau. And then we flick to the ST standings. So ST Pro is awfully tight at the top. It's Mike Dam who leads at the moment for season 15. And he's taken the most wins. 3 to his name for the Canadian. Let's see if any of those USA drivers behind, the likes of Robert Hartley or DJ Alessandrini, can possibly pip him for the championship lead. It will be very tough for Alessandrini, but those 2 are the only drivers to have won a race other than Mike Dam. And with Mike Dam this season, Tyler, switching over from the Mustangs to the MX-5s, it's been a successful campaign for him 5 rounds in.
Yeah, it certainly has. I mean, Mike Dam has absolutely been killing it these first few rounds, and it shows. He's leading the top of the standings. Just 7 points, though, over Robert Hartley, which really in this championship is not a lot. We can see that flip in a matter of races. And really, I think pretty much anybody down to about 5th place with DJ Alessandrini has a realistic shot at winning the championship. But really, anyone in the top 8, I would say, has a shot. The shot is just a little bit smaller.
Exactly. So that's going to be a tough one. And we saw the open standings, of course, too. And here they are. It includes the young Elvis Rankin, who we know he's most likely, Tyler, being so young, he's most likely going to be quicker every single race we see him at. You know, for a 12-year-old to be racing in sim racing and to be doing this well, leading the open standings, it's, I mean, the start of hopefully much success for the future.
Yeah, it certainly is, and you would expect him to improve every single time, as you know, a lot of the young sim racers do. But it's also something too. It's almost like if you're Linda McMurphy, someone maybe who has a little bit more experience, you could get into his heads maybe sometimes. If you can use those mind tricks to your advantage, that a driver who's been doing this for a long time has built up resistance towards that, and they won't get tricked into making these small little mistakes that drivers can make you do. if you're a little bit less experienced. So while he does have a long future ahead of him and he gets better every time, he also can sometimes get tricked into making those small little errors that can cost him big in the long run.
And of course, you're a champion yourself in the real world, and that's the benefit and the bonus we get in this broadcast is that Tyler Maxson himself has driven this MX-5 to a championship in 2019, and you have driven at this circuit and won at this circuit. So if you're the expert here, how challenging is Sonoma? I feel like the first sector can be the most challenging part of the racetrack, but then, I mean, I've driven this circuit on the sim, of course, never in real life, but I definitely feel like the final sector with all the S's can also be a challenge, just trying to attack the curbs there and straight line every S's chicane.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most challenging circuits I raced at all year long. We had a very successful weekend here. I ended up taking home both victories in the races that we did here. And like you said, the first sector is so difficult to get right because if you overshoot turn 1, it's not just turn 1 you're messing up. You're messing up all the way through 3 and up the hill into 4 because you lose a lot of time going up those hills if you don't get the momentum from the previous corner to keep you running and getting up those hills a lot. We ran a little bit different track through the final sector, so we didn't actually get to take that fast-flowing section. It was more of a very tight, twisty chicane that we ended up taking there. But still, the last sector is very difficult to get right, especially on that downhill left-hander. It's very fast and flowing and can prove to be a big challenge for the drivers.
And it's to look at our grid for today's event, and it includes Aero Nom with yet another pole position there. Now ahead of Tyler Shiflett and Jeff Jacobs. No lap time from Kevin Ford in qualifying, so we're not sure if Kevin Ford's fallen into some issues, but for Kevin Ford, he will start all the way down in 12th, and so far, that's not the best, definitely the worst starting position for Kevin Ford this season that we've seen, but it's a good opportunity for the likes of Shiflett and Jeff Jacobs. I don't see Clint Vigas racing out there today, and unfortunately, it looks like he'll be absent for this round.
So that's very unfortunate there for Clint Vigas. Obviously, you need to get those championship points. You only have one drop round, and being that how tough this championship is, you make one little mistake, you don't want to have your drop round be a round that you've missed. You want to have your drop round be a round that you just didn't do that well in. So it's unfortunate for him, but some of the time, life situations get in the way of sim racing. But super unfortunate to see him gone, and hopefully you'll see him back again next week.
And then looking at our ST class, it is Robert Hartley on pole position, and that's exactly what he needs to do to steal that championship lead away from Mike Dam. DJ Alessandrini also doing a good job there, challenging for the championship. But how about John Allen with a brilliant qualifying performance? Only 0.02 of a second off Hartley. And I'm a bit surprised here, Tyler, from Travis Schwenke. He's sometimes can be the best out there on the right day in this MX-5, and he's certainly one of the best qualifiers in the MX-5 this series. To start down in 5th, the funny thing is a lot of people would take 5th as a dream result, but for Travis Schwenke, it's almost like a disappointment he's that good.
Yeah, and it's a tough one for Travis because he has been super fast in this championship in the past, and he still is now. It's just the drivers out there are on such a high level that really you make any slight error and you are going to be going down into 5th, 6th, 7th on the grid. And that's just one of those things. If you don't nail qualifying, you get qualifying exactly perfect, you're not going to get a front row starting spot because of how good those drivers in that ST field are. They're just so tight. It's so competitive that really any slight mistake is going to cost you big time.
Good to see Bobby Childs down there just ahead of Elvis Rankin, who's our top open class driver in this field. Now the drivers you can see in the background are off and away here to begin their pace lap around Sonoma. And we are not going to use the historic NASCAR Cup course, which is at the top of the screen. We're going to go through this carousel. And it's so weird here, Tyler, because obviously I commentate on the iRacing Rallycross World Championship, and we go through this section in reverse, and it's entirely covered in dirt. Now it's almost weird to see it in tarmac.
Yeah, it's for me, I've been running so much Rallycross lately that looking at this just without dirt on it is incredibly weird for me. But yeah, especially for you having to commentate on it, I cannot even imagine how weird that must look to you. But it's definitely an interesting course. It's a super fun section of racetrack because you go in there at a very high rate of speed, you're on the brakes, and then you just run the car through there and just let it flow in the real world and in the sim. And it's just such a fun section to drive. So these drivers are going to have a lot of fun doing that a lot tonight. These GS cars are expected to go 34 laps of racing action here tonight. And here we go through one of the most challenging sections on the racetrack as well. Through the final sector, it's fast and flowing. Don't overshoot this next corner coming up, because if you do, you're going to end up in a very close tire wall.
And of course, all the action today for round 6 for season 15 presented by Ricmotech High Performance Sim Racing Equipment. So visit the Ricmotech website for more information. Visit the Extreme Motorsports website for more information on the series. And of course, thank you to Performer Texas Elite Graphics, excuse me, for all their work behind the scenes. Welcome along, of course, to Apex Racing TV from Jonathan Simon, Tyler Max, and myself. We hope you enjoyed today's action here. 60 minutes from Sonoma. Aero non-floors it. The green flag waves, and we go green from Sonoma for the first time.
Look at them. They're still 2x2 all the way through as they head up the hill. And it looks like Cameron Martineau, and I believe that is Steve Daniel, side by side up the hill for the first time. Everyone gets through cleanly, but it's still a battle for 5th.
Oh, goodness. Steve Daniel there will have to form up behind Cameron Martineau. Now they all keep it together here for the first the first real braking zone heading into the middle section of the lap. Here's the beginning to the MX-5 race. Bit of bump drafting going on. Hartley there and Alessandrini working together, just trying to dispose of John Allen here into the braking zone of turn 1. Have they done it though? Allen fights back. They're going to be alongside each other here, Allen and Alessandrini, but I think Alessandrini will have the pace and promotes himself to second. A good start from DJ.
Yeah, Alessandrini able to slot himself up into second place. John Allen slots into third, Schwenke fourth, Mike Dam into 5th. So Dam has lost a place, and I think that is going to be Eric Violet off the circuit. He's going to lose 3 or 4 places there. Elvis Rankin's going to make up a few here off the start, but your biggest mover so far, Jim List, up 5 spots already. What a start from Jim List.
Brilliant start from Mr. List himself, and still got a lot of positions to make up. We flow through to the end of the Mustang lap there. This is Lucas Ford, who is now into the 6th position. Now, Lucas did start in 8th, and now he's been repassed into 7th by what looks like there. Was that Mr. Bader? Yes, it was. Raymond Bader passed him as well. So, it looks like a very steady first lap here for the Mustang drivers. We know that, Tyler, the tires probably up to pressure now, but we saw Eric Violet go off. Maybe the tires weren't up to pressure for him.
Yeah, it certainly could be. The driver's kind of opting for a few different strategies you could do. You could kind of go for the lower tire pressure and kind of struggle on the first lap, but then really pick up and have some nice heat in the tires once you get into laps 2 and 3, or you could go for a bit higher pressure with possibilities of slides being a little bit higher. So it's just kind of driver preference, really, as they head up the hill here for the second time in this race at the end of lap number 1. It is still Robert Hartley who leads out your MX-5s, but Alessandrini is following him very, very closely indeed.
This is the first sector of the racetrack here. This is very challenging braking zone, isn't it, Tyler, into this downhill right-hander, because you can so easily run wide, just as Eric Violet did. I feel like just because it's a downhill portion of the circuit and it's such a tight exit, there isn't really any room for runoff, as we see Jim List here battle away with Elvis Rankin. It can invite drivers to run wide.
Yeah, certainly can. It's this whole racetrack really invites you to run wide. It's almost like, look, just carry a little bit more speed. But if you do that, then you'll sometimes end up way off the circuit. And the tire walls and the concrete walls are very close here. Ooh, look at that one. Jordy Fike down the inside there. of Jacob Beasley. Beasley not letting him through there, and Fike will have to try another move here if he wants to get by the driver in the number 154.
If you have trouble spotting Jacob Beasley, then we can tell you'll be new to the series. He's in that bright green MX-5. This is Hartley, though, still leading the field now. Some of those cones destroyed as well in the braking zone. The tough part I find about Sonoma there, Tyler, is the fact that, I don't know, that curb there is almost like a painted curb. I find it's like, if you're an OCD fan, the way that the drivers just drive over the curb and are allowed to because of the tire ballers, do you get what I'm saying? It's not a good look, I don't feel like, but they do that in the real world.
No, yeah, we actually did that in the real world. That curb, or that painted piece of tarmac, is really what it is, actually has a lot of grip on it because that's where everybody drives in the real world. So you really hook it up there and you get right up next to those tire bollards and just try not to hit your mirror on it and knock your mirror in. But as you can actually see there, look at Alessandrini run by. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit annoying for people with OCD, but it's also great for the drivers whenever it gets nice and gripped up and it's able to rotate that car and shoot it down the front straightaway.
And it looks like John Allen, who's had a skatey season, sometimes been near the top. Remember his brilliant Bathurst race for John Allen, so he certainly has the pace, but there's been other events where he hasn't had it. It looks like today at Sonoma, he's going to have it over these next 55 minutes here remaining, and driving quite well. We're watching Cameron Martineau on screen in a scrap with Steve Daniel. Let's ride on board with Daniel, and you can see the gap he's pulled off on Derek Holland behind for Mandela Ryan Racing. It's already 2.5 seconds in 5 minutes. That's a pretty insane gap right now to begin this race.
Yeah, certainly is, but the biggest story as far as the GS field is concerned, Kevin Ford does not take the start here today. He will lose a lot of points to his nearest challenger, Aero Nam. He will really be regretting that. If he had anything that he could have helped about it, you know that Kevin Ford would have wanted to be here tonight. But it's so unfortunate for him. He is going to lose a heap of championship points. That's going to make it very difficult for him if he has any chance of catching Aero Nam in the championship.
And still haven't heard word on what's happened to Kevin Ford, unfortunately. So we'll try and get that to you as soon as possible. But it's very unfortunate for the man who's been driving so well this campaign in that Mustang class. He's really been Aero Nam's closest competitor. And what you're going to see is Aero Nam does have that 3.5 second advantage as we watch Steve Daniel here alongside Martineau. Good little battle here for the 4th position continuing. But Aero Nam, obviously, we know he's practicing a little bit less this season just because of various reasons, of course. And maybe his pace is going to get quicker over this next hour, Tyler, because as he gets more accustomed to the car and track.
Yeah, certainly could. A driver of Aero Nam's caliber, just like he was telling us in the interview last week, he's pretty much down to 0 practice before these events and just using one setup for every single track, and that just shows how good he really is. Kevin Ford is definitely a really good driver, so the fact that Aero Nam can show up with next to no practice shows how good he really is in this Mustang and how he is certainly the driver to beat. Now, what I will be interested to see is how these drivers will cope if the series decides to switch over to the GT4 car, which is scheduled to come out in the next build. How he will be able to cope with it and how the other drivers will be able to adapt and find speed in that Porsche.
I always feel like it'll be a level playing field because if you're someone, let's say Elvis Rankin, for example, and you need to catch up on years of knowledge that you don't have being so young in the world of sim racing, climbing into that GT4, you put yourself in a level playing field. Was that a battle for the lead we just saw there between Hartley and Alessandrini? That looked awfully close, and yes, it is. That's Alessandrini in that bright blue MX-5, working the wheel here as we ride on board with him, Tyler. Talk us through this next section. Like I said, the next right-hander coming up now, this braking zone is ever tough.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a very hard downhill braking zone. Easy to overshoot it and end up way off in the grass. And then this next section, it's just all about the entry and getting that car really hooked up and rolled through there. Whenever you head down into here, you just want to use as little brake as possible. You let the car roll through that section and then get on the power nice and hard and down this uphill straightaway, actually. It's a very difficult corner to get right, that one is, because you've got to get such a good run onto this straightaway, then you go back down the hill into a very tricky complex. The car really likes to understeer through here because of how flat it is, and then you head out and onto this very fast, tight section, which is really more like a straightaway for a little bit than it is with a bunch of turns in it.
And we listen to the brilliant sound of that Mazda MX-5. A very popular car in the world of iRacing. The Global MX-5 series is one of the most highly participated. And the talent translates here to the Extreme Motorsports Rick Motec Sports Car Series. Always been a close fight, hasn't it, Tyler, for the lead of your MX-5s? Because do you think that's because of the talent we have? It's all on the same level? Or do you think it's just because the MX-5 keeps everybody together with that draft?
I think it's a combination of both, to be honest. I think that the talent level that we have right here is so even and so close that these drivers really can't get away from each other. And the car also promotes that kind of racing as well. So with that combination together, just creates this ultra-tight racing where the drivers really can't break away from each other. And if they do, it's not by much. It's only by a couple of seconds that they will break away. And it's really all down to strategy. Look at Travis Schwenke get nice and sideways. He's down into the dirt, and he's going to lose the position there to Mike Dam and possibly to Elvis Rankin.
Oh, goodness. Just up the inside there goes Elvis Rankin for Lil King Racing. And here's Hartley versus Alessandrini continuing now. And this could be a move into the braking zone here in the middle part of the lap. And this is what is the joker in Rallycross. They go reverse, of course, these MX-5s. Well, actually, they go the correct way. It's Rallycross that goes in the reverse. And so far, it looks like the lead remains unchanged. But they head through this tough S section. Now, we were here for the Supercars E-Series the other week, Tyler, and I have to say, this circuit does promote some good racing, but it's also very stressful on tire wear.
It certainly is. You're on power, and on full power, that is, for a lot of this lap. You've really got to be careful. Alessandrini down the inside, and he is going to get that move done. Robert Hartley is not going to be able to make the switchback move work. New leader in your XT class, Alessandrini goes to the lead.
And it's time for John Allen to capitalize on this. Hartley had the worst of exits, an immense amount of wheel spin. We ride on board with the Defined Autoworks driver. And getting a bit skatey under braking is John Allen. Let's have a listen to this next section, see if he can pull the move off. Not really an overtaking spot is turn 4, Tyler, here, the right-hander, but through the carousel, this is where Schwenke made his error on the exit. But John Allen, I tell you what, is keeping one of our most experienced iRacers in the world of iRacing quite honest here.
Yeah, he really is. And one thing that I actually found interesting was at the top of turn 4 there, the drivers are not using near as much curb as we were using in real life. In real life, we were absolutely clobbering that curb and pretty much had the left side tires on it. The right side tires were in the dirt, and now in here, they're barely touching the curb. So it's interesting to see the differences between the simulator and the real world handling characteristics-wise. So it's very... This is one of my favorite things about commentating on these cars, is seeing the different driving styles that the drivers use in this series and versus what we use in the real world and how we get the car to do different things and how they get to do it. It's so fascinating to me.
And look at the visual gap here. Allen has an opportunity to basically bomb Travis Schwenke here, but it's not going to happen. No, excuse me, Robert Hartley. And this is Hartley in the Excite Racing car. Now, he has done some work this season, of course, Robert Hartley, with Travis Schwenke, his teammate. Schwenke is a partner of both Asprey Motorsports and, of course, Excite Racing. So for those drivers, you could say they also have a link to George Fike, who's down there in the 13th position for your MX-5s. But nevertheless, though, at the moment, Hartley doesn't have his teammate to help him. Neither does Alessandrini, who races for himself for Alessandrini Racing. Yeah,
he really doesn't have much, but obviously it doesn't look to be as as if Robert Hartley and Travis Schwenke work as a team, really. I think that's just a partnership that they've kind of put together between the two teams, but I really do think that everyone in the series pretty much acts as if they are a privateer. So no one really acting as a team per se. And we're just getting a message there from Race Control. An incident between car 2 and car 95. That is between Greg Mack and Russ Ruddock, who's actually out of the race.
Yep, so Russ Ruddock retired, I think, on the opening lap, and it looks like an incident from there that Race Control's finally going to have a look at, and we'll give you word, and Race Control will keep you posted at the bottom of the screen. Now, early pit stops, of course, there at the bottom. That's Matthew Hendy for Simtech Racing, already into his box. There it is. Now, is that a damaged Simtech Racing car, or is that just the livery I'm looking at? It's hard to see. I think it's quite damaged. I think the hood's completely off that Mazda.
No, the hood is completely off that car. There is really nothing left of that. That is a very beaten, battered MX-5. Let me look here for a replay. I think I may have one right now. Let's see what happened to him.
I don't like where this replay is beginning from. Yeah, and I guessed it. Straight into the barriers. And a real big mental lapse of concentration there for Matthew Hendy, unfortunately. So he's pulled that car into the pits. But look at the scrap here for the lead for your MX-5s. Your leaders separated. These top four separated by less than a second. That's how close it is. From Alessandrini, Hartley second in line. How about John Allen and Mike Dam? 4 different drivers, 4 different teams here, all battling for the lead. Now, while that's occurred, Travis Schwenke's made his way past Elvis Rankin for 5th in class. You can see just there in the back of the shot, Schwenke, after that early error, is still in contention here, Tyler, to draw himself back into this train. And then, come pit stop time, in about 10 minutes' time when that window opens, it's ever possible that Travis Schwenke can still win this race.
And look at them all off the circuit there. They're drifting through their rallycross style. All off the circuit, and still in the same order, though. Nobody comes across the track, luckily, and just slaps the inside wall, because it's something that's very easy to do. If you get out there, you put a bit too much steering input into it, and you are going straight into that tire wall that you just saw there on the right-hand side of your screen. And it's not a very friendly tire wall, I will have to say. I've hit that many times in the simulator. Luckily, I've never hit that in the real world. But in the simulator, I've definitely slapped that one a couple of times.
Yep, never good to hit that in the real world, of course. Well, never good to hit it in sim racing, but real world obviously has worse consequences. Now, you saw in the back of the shot there as we headed to turn 7 how close Elvis Rankin was to passing Travis Schwenke, but now Schwenke remains in that 5th position here, 15th overall, and ahead of the young man of Elvis Rankin. Now, that pit stop and the entry here, Tyler, is challenging into Sonoma. Did you have to make pit entries when you raced here in the real world, or did you get lucky enough to avoid that ever tight pit entry and ever high-speed pit entry?
Yeah, we don't actually have to pit in our races. They're only 45 minutes in length, so we don't ever have to do any pit stops. And I'm lucky that I didn't, because even going through there on the pit limiter at 30 miles an hour was a little bit sketchy, because it is a very tight pit entry. I really don't understand how NASCARs fit through there, because I could barely even fit through there in my tiny little MX-5. So it's definitely a tight pit entry, and if you overshoot it just that little bit too much, it's straight concrete. There's really nothing to it. You are going straight into a concrete wall at probably what is 50 or 60 odd mile an hour. So it's definitely not something you want to be hitting, and you really got to nail your pit entries there. You cannot afford to lock up a tire or just overshoot it that little bit, because it will be large repercussions for you if you do.
Most certainly. And that pit entry Tyler's talking about is, wow, what a brilliant shot that is. But that pit entry Tyler's talking about will be on screen in a few moments' time. Have a look at Alessandrini with this lead he's pulling out here through the end part of the lap. This is the pit entry to the left-hand side of the screen. Now to the right-hand side of the screen there. So obviously Alessandrini does not take to that tough pit entry. And when we're here for the Supercars E-Series, Tyler, on iRacing a couple of weeks ago, we saw Dane Warren enter the pit lane there and make a complete clot of himself and completely damage his his supercar when he could have won the race. He ended up being our first DNF for the season.
Yeah, super unfortunate. It's something where you're trying to gain those extra 2 or 3 tenths in the pit stop phases, but it's really not worth it in the long run. You know, whenever you have the possibility of gaining 2 or 3 tenths or slapping it in the wall 9 times out of 10, it's better just to not take the risk, just to stay cautious with it and just take that risk factor out of it. Because whenever you're doing a race at 60, 90 minutes, or even one of the supercars races where it's a very long race, you can't be taking those risks. There's no reason to do that.
Definitely not. So whilst we watch this battle occur for the lead in your MX-5s, there's plenty of other battles going on down the field. We know the group between Schwenke and Rankin is staying active, and then look at the group behind them. It's almost like deja vu, isn't it, here with Eric Violet, David Payton, and Bobby Childs. And, of course, Jim List leading the train here. And it's a nice, tight battle between these 4. It looks like your lead battle here, but the funny thing is that in that little train we just watched there, all 4 of those drivers are all from D2D Esports.
Yeah, D2D Esports has a large presence in this league, to say the least. They have 4 drivers entered. Actually, sorry, 5 drivers entered in the MX-5 class. If that's not a big team, then I don't know what is, because that's a lot of drivers to have at your disposal to be able to race with. As you can see, Michael Hilliard into the pit lanes. Problems with that Mustang there. But they're definitely not doing too bad right now, sitting down in 8th, 9th, 10th, and 12th, respectively. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, respectively, sorry. But they definitely have a large presence in the league, and they are improving year after year. And they're really doing quite well for themselves in this series.
Yeah, and that's quite bizarre, by the way, to see Michael Hilliard there being passed by our slower cast. God, that's close there between Rankin and Schwenke. That's going to cost Rankin not only some time, but a slipstream. This is Steve Daniel on screen here. He's been close to Cameron Martineau. Every time we look now, everybody's been close to each other, but no one's really been able to make many overtaking maneuvers. There's a 98 of Michael Key for Frito Sport Racing getting out of the way here of the leaders. But now we get traffic for the first time, Tyler, and this could really shake up the field. And it could actually spice up the action for us, because in this first 20 minutes, like I said, only a few overtakes, but nothing else really for on-track action.
Yeah, there really hasn't been, and that's while Sonoma does promote a lot of racing, it also can be very difficult to pass in some sections. So, you know, you see drivers mainly just stay in line, and it's better just to push than to do an all-out fight for 60 minutes of action. So the drivers are really just staying in a line, basically, for these first few minutes. And the traffic is going to help to start to separate these drivers and really mix and match all the fields. And that's when the drivers, especially in the faster class, that is when the best drivers really show. The drivers that can get through traffic quickly, as look at that. Jacob Beasley, the first of your MX-5s to come in and make his pit stop here in this race.
It's an early one for Mr. Beasley. He's made the step up to pros this season, and it's been a big challenge, but he's had to hand that reign and that championship, hopefully, to somebody else there in the ST class, in the Opens. But nevertheless, Beasley should now be interesting today for pit stops, Tyler, whether or not we'll see the MX-5 drivers take either no tires or 2 tires. I'm expecting 2 tires. That's really been the way to go, I think, in the MX-5s. But for anyone trying to gain track position, Tyler, I think it's not out of the question for someone not to take any tires at all because of track position and the difficulty to overtake at Sonoma.
It is a possibility, but really, whenever you're fueling up this car for the amount of time that you need to fuel it up for, it makes more sense to take 2 tires because you don't lose any time in doing so. And if you do, it's very minimal, maybe a tenth or 2, which really is going to be made up by having the 2 tires on your car. So it could be a strategy option for the drivers taking less fuel. But I think for the drivers that are going to be taking the the normal load of fuel, it makes more sense just to take the 2 tires anyway and gain that extra grip.
See, and the other thing is, I don't know, because when I raced, before I went international with sim racing and went to the World Championship, I was in Australia's top open wheeler league, and we raced obviously Formula One and all that. And we were in a race at Monaco in another sim. And obviously at Monaco, it's one of the toughest circuits to pass at in the world, but I sort of said, okay, I can 2-stop this, and I'm going to lose track position, but I'm going to gain like 2-3 seconds a lap on the driver in front. And I was like, you know what? I'm confident in my overtaking ability. So I'd say, like, okay, if you're Robert Hartley and everybody takes 0 tires, but you take 2 or 4, then you catch them with 15 minutes to go. I reckon if you're the likes of Robert Hartley with his talent level, you could just pass anybody. That's the confidence I had at Monaco. And I ended up winning that race.
I completely agree. I think that if you've got the confidence that you can make your way through traffic quickly and effectively, then you should go for the risk, because that could end up winning you the race. Because if you're on the same strategy as the drivers ahead of you, Alessandrini and Hartley, and as well as Dam and Allen, all 4 of those drivers really even themselves out. They're not too separated as far as pace goes, so it's really difficult to pass someone that's on the same pace as you if you're not on a different strategy as them. So for a driver like Robert Hartley with some space to spare in the championship, it almost makes sense for him to go for the risk.
And here's a trick I always use in sim racing is if I'm sitting in a train like this, you just sort of conserve the rubber and conserve the tires. So let's say everybody at the moment is driving at 80%. They're not really pushing. And if I end up driving at 70% and I'm still able to stay in the train because the slipstream tire keeps me within the train, then by about 10 minutes time, I'll still drive 70%. They'll be driving 80%, but I'll end up being faster than them because my rubber's fresher. And you can see this could be what's happening with Robert Hartley right now. He could be sitting, remaining patient behind Alessandrini. Maybe he's even trying to get those tires, Robert Hartley, all the way 60 minutes through without changing them in the pit stops. Who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. I think that's what John Allen right now is doing. He hasn't really gained a lot of time or lost a lot of time. I think he's just pretty much maintaining the gap and kind of saving tires when he can and saving a bit of fuel when he can, and not really pushing too hard. I think that's probably the best strategy that you could possibly go for right now. I think the strategy of conserve as much fuel and tires as you can, have that in your back pocket when it comes to the later end of the race, and hope that the strategy that you picked works. That's really all that you can do here at Sonoma. This track benefits those with better tire management skills and better fuel management skills. And I think that the driver that we're going to see win here today is going to win it on tire and fuel strategy more than they're going to win it on racetrack speed.
Well, every time we keep looking at this lead battle, nothing seems to change. I feel like when we look away, like remember Laguna Seca, Tyler, head straight to all race. Can we give a backstory to that? All race, Tyler and I are like, oh, when do we take this ad break? Like the action's too close. I'm like, all right, we're just going to take it now. And as soon as we take it, Tyler, the battle for the lead changes for the first time, I think. And we just had, like, we were face-palming just over how unlucky that was. Let's have a look at your D2D esports train. And it includes Violet, Peyton, Childs, and Chris Thorman there. And the 4 drivers probably working together. And the good thing with sim racing is they might all be in the same voice channels here, discussing how they're going to reel in those leaders.
Yeah, that's something that is really cool to be used in sim racing and something that's banned in the real world that you're really not allowed to use during the races. Now, teams will still get around that because, you know, real world teams will pretty much do whatever they want as far as things like that goes. But in the real world, it's definitely frowned upon to be done. To be in the same voice channels, but it's one of the benefits that you have in sim racing, that you can talk to your teammates and strategize and really work out all those little details that one guy can't necessarily work out, but a group of 4 guys can figure out whenever they're all talking together in a voice channel, as far as when is the best time to go in and how can we split up the cars so that we most effectively go into the pit stops where we're not losing each other too much time, but also we're able to still stick together as one big train when it's all said and done. So it's definitely an advantage to have multiple cars out there, and to have a big train like that. It's really going to be nice for these drivers to be able to strategize and work together.
So we're about half an hour through this race, of course, thanks to many partners, Performer, Elite, Texas Graphics. Of course, thank you to other sponsors, of course, for Extreme Motorsports. And if we have a look at the action here down the back of the pack, we have some pit stops coming in. That's John Allen for Defiant Auto Works, one of our leaders here. We mustn't forget, of course, Rick Motec High Performance Sim Racing Equipment, so check them out at Rick Motec and all their associated websites. But for Allen, the leader, he ends up entering the pit lane this early, and depending on how many tires he takes, this could prove pivotal for the lead battle.
Certainly could. He did come in on his own, so that'll be very, very difficult for him to have that same pace unless he's just that confident in his pace that he knows that he can get it to the end. But back to what you were saying about our facepalm moment at Laguna Seca. For the viewers who have had a keen eye, if you'll notice, as soon as Laguna Seca came around, the non-stop feature was introduced, because I was so mad that we missed all that action that I immediately made the non-stop feature so that the viewer would never miss anything like that.
No, most certainly. That's Tyler Maxson, our producer and commentator behind the scenes, doing a splendid job. This is Allen on screen now, out and away, just ahead of Mitchell Peak for Esport Racer Orange. Steve Daniel at the bottom of the screen, as you can see, has entered the pit lane for your GS class. Those are your Mustangs. He's currently falling down the order, of course, whilst everybody else hasn't made their one and only pit stop we're expecting today. But it'd be interesting to know how many tires John Allen took, because, as we said, that could prove pivotal for the race. Now, what's happened to Hartley? Hartley's had an off track. Hartley is now passed by Mike Dam, and Alessandrini's in the lead.
Yeah, so Alessandrini was in the lead before the pit stops happened, but I'd like to know what happened there with Robert Hartley. He had 3 seconds off the track. And then we'll also jump back here and check out what happened with how many tires John Allen took. Ooh!
Oh, goodness. He doesn't hit the wall, though. He does not hit the wall. The Excite Racing driver. Oh, goodness, your heart would be racing there if you're Robert Hartley. Actually, if anything, you'd probably ease calm. I know how drivers feel in the cockpit in those situations, but certainly would have taken a knock for his confidence. Now we get to see a replay on screen, ladies and gentlemen, of John Allen, and whether or not he took 0, 2, or even 4 tires. We'll get to see the angle here as the car pulls in, and it looks like Tyler... This is ever so intense, isn't it? Just watching the steady car in the pit lane. No tires for John Allen? No tires. Wow. Okay, then. Oh, and some traffic here to deal with. Lucky it's a Mustang, but now that's going to prove pivotal when our leaders pit. So for Allen, it's not going to matter that he came in early here, Tyler. I think you only come in early if you're taking tires. Now he's just lost the draft, and he has no fresh rubber to undercut these drivers. So for Allen, I feel like he's going to lose out.
Yeah, he certainly could lose out if the driver's ahead of him. And if you've got a spotter in the race, which I think a couple of these guys do have spotters, they can be relaying you that information. That's a very important piece of information for the driver, for the likes of Alessandrini, Mike Dam, Robert Hartley, all these drivers trying to make up spots and really be able to pull away from John Allen. They need to know that information because that could be crucial for them.
And it's Alessandrini, Hartley, Rankin, List, Payton, Violet, Childs, all pitting here half an hour into this race. It's a mad scramble here in the entrance to pit lane. It looks like no one's made a mockery of that ever-tough pit entry as we watch John Allen here enter through to the final corner. Now, this is critical, Tyler, to look out for Allen, and then we'll get to see whether or not Alessandrini will retain that lead ahead of the Defiant Auto Works driver as we ride on board with the number 22.
And look at that, Alessandrini already out of the box. Hartley out of the box as well. Where does Allen slot through? Here he is now. He will have the superior speed heading up the hill. John Allen possibly taking the lead here. John Allen to the lead.
Brilliant stuff from Allen. I didn't think that was going to work, and then he's made a mockery of turn one. Oh, we snatched the lead there for 3 seconds. It did work, but for the matter of moments.
Wow. I'm speechless right now. I've never seen that one before. He was so keen on getting ahead of Alessandrini and pushing that car up into turn number one that he was that little bit offline, and that's all it takes here in Sonoma to end poorly for you. He overshoots turn one and is now back into the clutches of Robert Hartley. This is not good for Hartley, though. This is hurting Hartley and costing Hartley some time, being that he's got a driver ahead of him, throwing up that little bit of dirty air, which really can make a small effect on these MX-5s. It's not a large effect, but it is definitely there.
Well, this is Mike Dam now pitting 1 lap later. Now we're assuming none of these drivers are going to take tires, as has been the trend. Aeronom continues, though. We watch our Mustang leader. Hey, is Aeronom still racing, Tyler? I've forgotten. He's got an 18-second advantage there, Aero. And hopefully he doesn't do a Robert Hartley at Mid-Ohio and wins this race. Sorry, Robert, but it was quite a bizarre error to make.
Yeah, I think at this point, Aeronom has stopped racing and just started doing a lapping day, as far as it's concerned right now. He is, like you said, 18 seconds out in the lead and cruising at this point. He is on autopilot, and you can see he's not pushing whatsoever. He's just pretty much cruising.
Now, Mike Dam, I think, is taking the lead here. So Mike Dam is through into the lead, and he's right alongside Alessandrini for that lead advantage. Now, Mike Dam will have to form up here through the first sector, through turns 2 and 3. And it looks like Alessandrini, at the end of that entire pit phase, still remains in P1. It's almost nullified the effect of every driver. Oh, and Alessandrini runs deep, but I think he's actually made himself a little quicker there. Just needs to be careful of incident points and penalties, of course. You do receive drive-through penalties and the liking for exceeding a certain amount of incident points in this series. But nevertheless, though, Robert Hartley, I think without that error there, Tyler, he had probably the quickest pit stop, I think, of all the leaders. I'll have a look at the stats in a moment's time, but had he not had that error a few laps ago, he could have found himself in the P1 advantage.
Yeah, he certainly could have found himself there. It's kind of woulda, coulda, shoulda, I would say there for John Allen. Oh, man, that's heartbreaking, really, for the guy who played the strategy to perfection and then completely messed it up in a matter of one corner. And it's so easy to do. I can tell you, I've done it before. I've done it in endurance races. I've come out of the pit lane and completely overshot the first corner. And it's just something that you've just got to live with and hope that doesn't happen again. It's really just an unfortunate error for him, and not something that he can really control. But this is something that we don't see often here. Alessandrini is getting held up by the Mustang of Robert Brist. I believe Brist has some issues with that Mustang, or was just getting going a little bit. But yeah, right now these MX-5s are really closing up to the back of him.
Looks close, doesn't it? There's one of the Mustangs ahead of Robert Brist. Just not sure if Brist will be passed here. He is. Robert Brist will be passed by the leaders. And remember, this is for position right now, so Brist does not have to get out of the way. I think out of being courteous, he will. As we watch Jeff Jacobs for Street Survival in your GS class enter the pit lane. Aeronom, of course, has made his one and only pit stop for the day. And Aeronom has handed that lead to Tyler Shiflett temporarily. But whilst all this occurs, we'll see if your leaders here are able to dispose of Robert Brist. They do. Robert Brist out of the way. And that's a good courteous move from Robert Brist there, Tyler, considering that he did not have to adhere to any blue flags at all. That was for racing position.
Yeah, that's something that you just always like to see, though. A driver who is being courteous to the slower class, even when they know that they are in the faster car and they should be ahead of him. Whether it's just a pace issue or he's got damage or whatever the case may be, the fact that he just moved out of the way and was like, look, you guys are racing for position, I'm not. I'm just going to get out of your way and let you go. That, to me, is awesome to see. I love to see when drivers do that, and I love I like it. I think it's a great thing for the series. It shows that the drivers they understand what kind of situation they're in. They understand that, okay, look, I'm not racing for position. These guys are. I need to get out of the way and let them continue their race without affecting it. I think it's something that really, if everyone in iRacing would do, the whole service in the racing would be able to.
Most certainly. Now, you saw Shiflett in the pit lane there, just out of shot. And he's missed his box, Tyler Shiflett. Goodness gracious. Well, he's not going to be saying meh to that. The Mech Motorsports driver, without his teammate today of Clint Vargas, is all on his own, and I don't think his teammate would have helped nevertheless there. Raymond Bader also enters his box, and he'll be servicing that Mustang ever so quickly, but they hand the lead back to Aeronom, the European. And the International's doing quite well in this series, Tyler. You know, a very US dominated series, and look, as much as I love the US too, I'm an Aussie, but as much as I love the US too, you have to give credit to the Internationals. Mike Dam, the Canadian, and Aeronom, the European there, both winning their respective classes so far. Sorry, both leading their respective classes, better said, through the midway of the Season 15 campaign.
Yeah, that's it's very nice to see the fact that while this is a very much American-dominated series, the Europeans still do have opportunities to come in and really do well here. And while Mike Dam is not a European, Aeronom is the only European other than Matthew Hendy in that Simtech Racing, who unfortunately retired early. Other than that, though, those are the only two drivers who are European in this series, and obviously I think that we would see more European drivers if we had a bit earlier on. Yeah, I think that if it was a little bit earlier in the day, we would see more Europeans in this series. But considering it's like 2 o'clock in the morning for them right now, I don't blame them.
Very close here, as one of the MX-5s gets out of the way of your D2D esports train that's been pretty much linked to each other the entire event. So with just under 20 minutes remaining, the lead continues in your ST class here. We're watching this train for the D2D esports drivers, but they're right behind that lead train. For the GS class, it's still Aeronom dominating. We'll bring you all the action in the final 15 minutes of this event. Don't leave us here. You're watching Round 6, Season 15 of the Extreme Motorsports Rick Motec Sports Car Series on Apex Racing TV. Welcome back to action of round 6 for season 15 of the Extreme Motorsports Rick Motec Sports Car Series here from Sonoma. And of course, it's been a dominant battle and a dominant display by Aeronom for your GS class. He's leading that field by quite a substantial margin, but now he finally reels in the leaders in your MX-5 class. That lead battle includes Alessandrini, Mike Dam, Robert Hartley, and then of course John Allen's dropped off the train after his early pit stop. So this is Aeronom, the leader, maneuvering his way around the lead traffic, and we get this once a race, Tyler, every time out in the sports car series, and now finally 45 minutes in, it's about the time we expect this to occur. And I don't think Aeronom's going to trouble the leaders, knowing he has such a dominant, pretty much lead at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think that he's really going to try and do too much battling with those front guys. I think he's really just going to kind of get by him where he can. And if it costs him 2 or 3 seconds, I think it's just going to be kind of is what it is for him. I don't think he's too worried about losing some time here. But this battle is now just starting to form in your GS class. Tyler Shiflett is getting caught by Jeff Jacobs. These two have fought, I can't even tell you how many times this season and throughout the last few seasons. So these two are definitely no strangers to battles with each other. They are certainly about to go at it here in the final closing stages. Looks to me as if Jeff is getting through the traffic just a little bit better. Ooh, an MX-5 gets sideways there. I can't quite tell who that was. Think that was Chris Thorman? No. That may have been... I'm actually not too sure who that was.
Well, one of the cars out of the way anyway. That's Jeff Jacobs in the Street Survival Mustang. Jeff Jacobs having a good race so far in the 3rd position. Good on you, Jeff Jacobs. Why not? Let's give him some praise. If you look at the championship standings, Jeff Jacobs is 3rd, so he's expected to be in that 3rd position. But I'll tell you what, though, Tyler Shiflett, who's 4th in the standings, having a better race than him so far, but look at the gap, only 1 second between the two. This one's getting closer and closer as the race progresses, which is good to see.
Yeah, I love to see it in the GS class. It's kind of the class that's lost a little bit of traction the last few seasons, and now I think it's at a pretty low entry number as far as this season goes. I think we're down to like 12 or 13 entries. Only 8 left running here in this race, which is so unfortunate because really whenever we get a nice big battle or big group of GS cars, we see some great battles throughout this throughout the field. But I think the MX-5, being that it is a free car and a lot of drivers are so well, the drivers know it so well that there's really no learning curve to it. So I think that that's what a lot of the drivers flock to for that reason. So it's difficult to get them into a car that's really not super popular on the iRacing service. Now, while it's super fun to drive, it's just not the most popular.
What a brilliant shot that is through the last sector. And camera angles here produced by, of course, Tyler Maxson himself. And, oh, look at the left-hand side of the screen there. The gaps between Alessandrini, Dam, and Hartley. Look at the lap times set by all of them. Pretty much carbon copy lap times by the leaders. Whoa, goodness gracious. There's the championship leader all over the rear end of DJ. And now through turns 3 and then turn 4, working the wheel is Mike Dam, of course, here in the closing stages of this race. Alessandrini's run wide open, and he's done it again there through the exit of 4. And now he's falling under pressure here from the Canadian. Will he go for the move into the carousel? It's not the best overtaking spot. It's a thrilling corner to drive, but very difficult to pull off the move. And it looks like Alessandrini may keep this lead heading into 7.
Yeah, but this is a great opportunity for Mike Dam if he just wants to lick the stamp and send it. It's definitely an opportunity for him. He does it, though, but he gets right up to the rear bumper of the number 91. DJ Alessandrini, he's so close to him this time. Is he going to try to make a move here through the last sector into that last hairpin right-hander? Or is he just going to bide his time and wait that little bit longer? We only have 12 minutes left in this race. We're just about to click over to 11 minutes. Mike Dam looking for a move.
Now you can make it into this final hairpin here at turn 11. And he's had a peak, but he's going to rejoin the racing line. It can be difficult here. If this was a tighter hairpin, maybe. But through the rear of this train is Robert Hartley. Hartley began the race on pole position, but he's going to sit tight and hope that while these two squabble, Hartley's going to have a door open for himself. And I saw this plenty of times over the weekend. If you watch the V8 Scops action on Sunday morning in the US, there were plenty of good racing displays. We saw some drivers just sit tight in Hartley's position and pass the two drivers ahead whilst they were all busy squabbling. That's Alessandrini off the racetrack yet again. That's Alessandrini demoted to third. That's Mike Dam in the lead.
Wow, that is, I think, a display of Alessandrini cracking under pressure. He had immense pressure from Mike Dam and Robert Hartley there, and whenever you've got all that pressure piled on you for laps on end, you're bound to make a mistake at some point, and Alessandrini makes it in a very crucial section of the racetrack. But he did keep it out of the wall, which is extremely important for him in these two. Mike Dam and Robert Hartley are already battling each other, so this is exactly what Alessandrini wants here. He can get back up in this lead battle if he drives good enough, and these two continue to battle.
If you think this racing is getting better here to end the race, can't wait till we head to Brands Hatch next week. And in a fortnight's time. I meant next round, of course. Next week will be GT action, but that'll be a nice display at Brands Hatch for sure. But right now, with 10 minutes to go, we focus on whether or not Mike Dam will retain the lead over Hartley. Now, Alessandrini isn't completely out of it here, Tyler. He just has to regain that critical confidence and have a look at how tail-happy Mike Dam gets through the exit. He could be alongside Hartley here for the lead. Mike Dam gives plenty of room as Hartley, our pole sitter, looks to find P1 yet again, but he's going to have to form up through turn one. It's single file through this first couple of corners. Oh, well, what's happened to Dam?
Mike Dam's having a bit of connection issues here, so that's not what he wants here in the final closing stages. That was a long blink for him there, so that is not at all what you want at 9 minutes to go. You get that one more time or two more times, and you end up blinking out of the server, and then that's all it takes, and your night is done.
It looked like Back to the Future, just driving off into... Well, do you want to go and... Let's go back in time and see if Mike Dam's driving at Sonoma in 1970 or something, because it looked like he went back into the past there. Quite a hilarious view, of course, but that's connection issues for you in sim racing, and hopefully Mike Dam doesn't suffer from any technical gremlins to win this race. It would be an awful way to finish this event. Now, you just saw John Allen in shot in the background. Goodness me, what's happened to John Allen? I mean, I've never seen such a huge drop-off from a driver to end the race. Now, I was really looking forward to John Allen. He's only just going through the exit of 7 now. But I was really looking forward to John Allen possibly winning his first race for the season, but we'll have to probably wait until Brands Hatch, I'd say, in a fortnight's time, unless something goes on between these three.
Yeah, and I doubt these three are going to have any major contact. It's not like them to have major contact like that. They keep it clean. As you can see, the 2D2 esports drivers start to battle there, but those front three are known to keep it clean. They don't beat and bang with each other. So I would not expect these three in the front to do that, but it is possible. They've done it in the past, and there's no saying that they won't do it again. So it's difficult to say. You've kind of just got to play it and see how it is, but I really don't think that John Allen's in the seat to win it here. He, personally for me, I think messed up on the strategy. I don't think that he ran the same strategy as the other drivers, and it really bit him hard. Now, while if he had been able to keep the lead and possibly had just blocked his way to the end, he could have possibly had the opportunity, but he just didn't have that opportunity with the way everything panned out for him. And right now, he may even lose a couple positions here to Elvis Rankin and Travis Schwenke.
We'll wait and see if these two reel him in. Alessandrini also remaining close. He's now latched onto the back of the train. Now, this was Jeff Jacobs you saw trying to maneuver his way around all this traffic along with Tyler Shiflett. These two close in the championship for 4th and 3rd, respectively, for Shiflett and Jacobs. Now it's going to be 3rd and 4th possibly in this race for points, depending on how many bonus points they achieve. But I think the championship will remain the same. And here they are, making their way past, trying to split the D2D esports train. How about that? For the first time this race. Now with 5 minutes to go, that's one battle we're going to keep an eye on. Steve Daniels also very close. So that's the battle for your final few podium positions. The other eye we're going to set is on the lead here for your MX5 race. Mike Dam, reeled in by Robert Hartley, reeled in by Alessandrini. Don't tell me it's going to be 2 positions in the space of a corner, but it looks like Mike Dam has more grit than that.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to lose 2 spots in one corner there. Luckily for him, he only drops down to 2nd place. But look at this battle here. Dam looks to the inside up through turn number 1, not able to get it done. And it looks like he will just have to settle in for 3rd spot right now. I'm not too sure, though, if you want to be leading this race heading on to the last lap. As look at Mike Dam get sideways there heading up the hill. Alessandrini down the inside. He'll make it up into 2nd place. Mike Dam will slide again, and he's down to 3rd and losing time.
Loses time taking the scenic route, taking the Alessandrini line through the exit of turn 3. And DJ's like, hey, mate, I invented that, but it doesn't work. I'm back to the tarmac now, and he's back in the 2nd. Now, they can't let Robert Hartley slip away because we know without a slipstream here, Hartley can easily win this race in the closing stages. And you saw Iranom in the background there go through the final sector. So Iranom has a few laps remaining in this race. It's about 1:40 here through Sonoma. And he's all untouched in the lead by over half a minute. But whilst we watch these 3 squabble, where would you make the move, Tyler? Where's the best spot? Is it through this final hairpin coming up?
I personally think that if you're going to make a move, that's probably the best place to do it. Now, if you want a place where the driver really can't fight you back, you want to try to do it up through turn number 1 because it's very difficult to hold it around the outside up the hill into turn number 2. And if you can, then you're really going to be on the back foot then going down the hill into 3 because you're easily just able to be pushed off. And that position is the driver on the inside. So it's a very difficult place to defend a position as turn number 1 as they just go through it now. And then it's really probably, if you're going to make a move, the best place on the racetrack to do it if you can.
Keep an eye on these 3. How beautiful is this here to win this race? How about Steve Daniel there, close towards Jeff Jacobs in the closing stages. Now GS class, Hartley, couple of wheels dipped off into the grass, into what was grass, mostly just dirt at the moment here, as this track was laser scanned during the summer months of California. And Alessandrini there, he seems to nail the carousel, doesn't Alessandrini? But it looks like Hartley got the better of the exits there as they head on to what is the drag strip here at Sonoma, which is very weird because drag strips normally, Tyler, I know, are completely flat. So unless that's the end of the drag strip, I mean, that would be quite dangerous, of course.
Yeah, that is the end of the drag strip. So the way the drag strip works, it only goes down until you can see on there it actually just colors. The different it goes from asphalt to concrete at the transition point. And that is where the drag strip ends. And that is just the slowdown zone for the drag strip. So you don't have any sort of big issues for the drivers whenever they do that. So luckily for them, the drivers that are racing on the drag strip, they aren't going up the hill and nearly taking flight if they hit the slightest bump.
Talking about colossal issues, almost one there for Alessandrini as he took off with a 1X there and off the racetrack completely. The American now has just a few more trips around Sonoma remaining. Now, where is Iranom? That's the question. I'm assuming he's through the carousel, maybe through the drag strip at the moment. Yeah, he's through the carousel. So Iranom here will have... This is the second to last lap. So next time Iranom crosses the line, it will be the final lap of the race. And that means for these 3 in your lead for your MX5. So we're going to head through the carousel now. There isn't much time remaining here to take this race win. Will it be Mike Dam, win number 4 for the season? Will it be Hartley finally taking win number 2? The same can be said for DJ Alessandrini. Will he take win number 2? But all we know for the moment is that it's most likely going to be somebody who's already taken a race win in season 15.
Yeah, it really can be. And one of the things that I want to confirm this, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't think we've had a repeat winner so far in Season 15. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
No, we certainly have. We had Mike Dam. He's won 3.
Oh.
Just
well, there we go. This is why I don't do lead commentary, and I do and I'm just the expert in the background. Because I don't remember these little details like that. But between Hartley and Alessandrini, they haven't won twice. But Mike Dam's won 3 times. That's impressive. Considering these other 2 competitors have only won twice. As Mike Dam blinks out again, that is not what he wants here going into the final minute of action. Aero Nam would have just taken the white flag, so it'll be checkered flag next time by for Aero Nam, and checkered flag for these drivers after they cross the stripe next time. So white flag is out for these drivers.
And have a critical white flag right now. And whether or not Alessandrini or even Mike Dam could possibly take this win at the moment. If all 3 of these drivers collide, John Allen's about 12 seconds down the road. So he's just trying to remain ahead there of Elvis Rankin and Schwenke. That could heat up in the closing stages. Same could be said for Eric Violet, David Payton, and Jim Liss. So we don't know if even Bobby Childs behind in that train. We don't know if those 4 D2D esports driver will call some team orders and just try and finish this race cleanly and pick up the pieces from anything else that will go along ahead of them. But here's that battle starting to develop here for Allen. Here's a battle for the lead here as Alessandrini goes for it on Hartley. They're alongside each other here on the final lap, and it looks like possibly, well, it's going to be a drag race to 7 for the moment between these 2. Who's going to end out on top here on the final lap?
I don't quite know yet. We're just going to have to watch him now down into the very tight double right-hander. Alessandrini down the inside of Hartley. They're going to go side by side on the exit. They're still side by side, but Hartley has the momentum, and he will edge out DJ Alessandrini. They're coming down to the line this time. Aero Nam out of the final corner. He will take the win here, and he has gone for a straight victory streak. He hasn't lost a race yet, but the battle is still on here for your MX-5s. Alessandrini all over the back of Hartley.
So Aero Nam wins round 6 for season 15 for your GS class. And who's going to end out on top here? Oh, it's going to be a drag race to the line for the win in your ST class. Is it going to be Hartley or Alessandrini? And Alessandrini, he's just going to fall short here at the line. Robert Hartley is victor for your ST class for round 6 of season 15.
And look at this here. It's all kicking off for 4th place. John Allen will barely edge out Travis Schwenke there at the end. And Elvis Rankin losing a place to Travis Schwenke. He's still one of your biggest movers in the ST field, up 6 spots. It's the same with Mitchell Peak and Jim List as well in that class. They all moved up 6 spots. Elvis Rankin, Jim List, and Mitchell Peak, they all tie for most positions gained. But that is probably one of the closest finishes we've seen in ST history, or at least in this season. 7/100ths of a second. That's a very close finish at the line.
And before we look at the results, Tyler, do you think he could have got it done? Should he have tried anything different? I think Alessandrini gave it his all.
I think he certainly gave it his all. Now, I think if he had just licked the stamp and sent it a little bit harder into the final corner, he possibly could have had an opportunity. But I think he just didn't want to let Mike Dam cross them both under and take the race win from them. And kind of chose what is definitely probably the smarter option for them to not just send it down the inside and cause a big collision.
Oh, goodness. Let's have a look at your final race results for round 6, season 15 of the Extreme Motorsports Rick Motec Sports Car Series. And it's Aero Nam who's victor by 40 seconds there at the end of the day over Tyler Shiflett and Jeff Jacobs. Those 2 were in a nice battle throughout the rest of the race, and it looks like Shiflett will win out in that championship battle between himself and the Street Survival car, with Steve Daniel following closely behind. Now, we saw Cameron Martineau close to Daniel in the opening stages of this race, but he ended up falling behind to about 55 seconds and about just over 15 seconds from that bunch. But at the end of the day, he wins our open class, and then you see the other 3 drivers there of Bader, Holland, and Ford rounding out the top 8. And then winner, of course, for the MX-5s was Hartley. Alessandrini, at the end of the day, lost out in a drag race with Mr. Robert Hartley itself in that Excite racing car. And it was only 7/100ths of a second across the line. It looked closer, didn't it? But you couldn't separate them only by a matter of inches. And Mike Dam, our championship leader, still retains the championship lead in third, but it's still close between those three. Hartley wins his second race of the campaign, and then it's Allen, Schwenke, Rankin, who lost out with a late move by Schwenke in that final lap, and then 4 D2D esports drivers who were never broken apart throughout the entire event. It was a close one between those 4, but the winner of the open class there, Tyler, was Elvis Rankin, and despite losing that position to Schwenke, it's a bittersweet final lap nevertheless, because he did win the open class race.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's another win then for Elvis Rankin in the open class, and he finishes ahead of a lot of very good pro-class drivers. So that's definitely a step in the right direction for him. He was battling with one of the best pros, Travis Schwenke. He's historically been really, really fast. He's been fast this season. So it's great to see for him that he's really able to take to the fight. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets bumped up to that pro status here very soon.
So it's time for our first interviews for the day. And it is time to grab our winner from our GS class of Eero Nam. And again, Eero, welcome back to Victory Lane and welcome back to your 6th race win from 6 tries here for season 15, and yet again another dominant display from yourself. And Sonoma, definitely a challenging track. I really hope you put in some practice laps this time around, because we saw a lot of mistakes out there at Sonoma, and I think you're one driver who I felt like you practiced because you didn't make many mistakes.
No, I did maybe 10 laps before the race, so not much.
At the end of the day, though, strategy for yourself, it seemed very simple. We saw a lot of drivers in our MX-5 class take no tires or 2 tires at the max. Was it the same in the Mustangs?
No, in the Mustang you have always time to take 2 tires. So in mid-race I decided to take left sides, not right sides. So that was, I think, good call. But up to the pit stop, every time I was thinking to pit, MX-5s in front of me went to do a pit. So I was out till the end.
Talk about what you can learn from the situation that you're in, you know, winning these races with a dominant display, but are you learning much in these situations? Can you improve your pace? Can you improve your skills in these situations? How are you approaching these races?
Yeah, still keeping racing conditions. This is the only race I do every week, so in that sense it's good. But yeah, traffic maybe I can learn more, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good part. Lapping the traffic and everything, dealing with that, which is always a tough part in this form of motorsport. But Tyler and I were talking about how this series, and we don't know now, we're just speculating that you all could be switching over to the Porsche GT4, which could be released for the next build. If you are racing that Porsche GT4, it means that everyone's going to be on the level playing field trying to learn that car. And if it is a one-make series possibly, or even if it isn't, even if it's just a Mustang replaced by the GT4, would that be a car you're looking forward to?
Yeah, there is a lot of thinking before the next season, what car to take, and I have to wait what cars there are.
And finally, who gets it done for you in that lovely Team Bushvink car again? Beautiful livery. It's a livery I hope that you carry towards most of your motor racing series you race in.
Yeah, it's a beautiful livery. Sadly, our painter quit our team, but we still have the old cars with this livery. But yeah, I like to thank the team sponsors, the league sponsors, all the admins. I don't know what happened to Kevin today. Maybe he was sick, but I really missed him. Maybe it was closer racing than this, but yeah. And I like to thank you guys in the boat.
So that's Eero Nam, who ended up winning race number 6 of 6 tries today, Tyler. And you'll be speaking with a man named Robert Hartley, who ended up winning our event here today from Sonoma.
So, Robert, welcome to the commentary booth. Another win for you in the series. If I'm not mistaken, that is your second of the season. It was really close between you and DJ Allison. The line just 7/100ths of a second. Take us through that race.
Well, my car started off good at the beginning of the race, and while I was out front leading, it just started getting real tight on me. So DJ got by, and then I think I had a big mistake coming through the S's, and Mike got by, and then I done it again. So I was in jeopardy of losing the draft, and I seen DJ dive for the pit, so I drove like a madman through pit entry and tried to get back to him, and took a little bit less fuel than I wanted to, but it got me back in the draft, and I was able to save a good bit for the end, for that battle at the end there. And yeah, DJ was putting the pressure on big time on the last lap, and I was overdriving. I overdrove the last corner, and he ended up making a run for the line, and it was very close.
Yeah, certainly was. There was really no room to spare between you two, and yeah, you had a big moment going through the fast S's section. So luckily for you, though, you didn't hit the wall, because that would have ended your race, or at least very much hampered it at that.
Yeah, I thought it was race over for sure when that happened.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's not hard to do here. You get a little bit sideways and you up into the inside wall, but luckily able to save it there and continue that battle. And obviously it worked out well for you. Even with everything that happened, you were still able to come out with the win. And yeah, I've really got nothing much for you. You pretty much drove dominantly today, and just seemed that you had that little bit of an edge that you needed over the competition.
Yeah, I felt like I had good pace for this race. Qualified on the pole, and but everybody's so close. You got to try to save a little bit during the race to have an advantage at the end. But yeah, thanks to these guys that raced so clean. I mean, Mike was leading, and I barely showed him a bumper, and he gave me all the room in the world, which allowed me to get the lead. But yeah, these guys are a lot of fun to race with.
Yeah, well, we'll quickly go ahead and jump it over then to who gets it done for you in that Excite.
Yeah, I definitely like to thank Excite for being on board and helping us out, and just a group of guys I work with in Discord. They all know who they are. So thanks for y'all for doing the broadcast, and the league admins for putting this league together for us.
Well, there you go. Robert Hartley, winner in round number 6 here from Sonoma. Congratulations again, and we'll see you next time, hopefully out in Brands Hatch.
Thanks, guys.
Now it'll be time to speak to DJ Alessandrini, who came home in the second position in a drag race to the line with Robert Hartley. Now, DJ, can we talk through that final corner? And Tyler and I were discussing whether or not to be honest with you, I don't think you could have given it any more of an effort on that final lap. You were really trying to fight for the lead, but at the end of the day, you had to worry about Mike Dam behind, which made your life difficult into that final corner.
Yeah, with Mike right behind me, it was I couldn't make a lunge at Robert, knowing that probably Mike would be the one that comes out on top there. I really needed Robert to make a mistake, but that's like wishing to win the lottery. Rob doesn't make many mistakes, and yeah, Rob just he made less mistakes than me this race, which I made one big one, and Robert recovered well from. He only had 2. Yeah, Rob ran a great race, so he deserved to win. And Mike deserved to win too. He was fast, so really could have went to any 3 of us. But yeah, it was good fun. That last corner, I tried. He pushed wide. I thought maybe it will happen, and then Mike tagged me a little bit, so it delayed my throttle just a split second. I still think Hartley would have been in front. It would have just been a little bit more exciting.
Yeah, it was only 7/100ths of a second across the line, but I mean, that was a really good political answer you just said there, DJ. And I think it's good sportsmanship from yourself. But to be honest with you, I mean, you gave it your all on that final lap. And I tell you what, though, you really gained a fan right here with me. Not that I wasn't already a fan of you, but I mean, just more respect from the viewers, you know. The fact that you had the lead for a moment there into the carousel, you were fighting hard, fighting cleanly. It just goes to show how talented yourself and, of course, Robert and Mike are.
Yeah, I can only race like that when you trust the guys that are around you, and I trust Mike and Robert to race clean and race me the way I want to be raced, which is clean and fair and fun. So yeah, kudos to Rob for just being able to race clean like that. Sometimes you race against guys and they'll throw blocks on you, and they race like you're going to murder their child at the end of that race, and yeah. And that's not fun. We're doing this for fun, and the way that Robert, Mike, John, all those guys race, it's just a really good time.
Well, no murdering of children going on for the next race at Brands Hatch, I hope, in the next fortnight. But for yourself, if you guys can drive that well, I'm assuming you'll go well at Brands Hatch because that circuit invites. It's a lot easier to overtake, I should say, at Brands Hatch. And yeah, if you guys can produce that racing at Sonoma, I can't wait for 2 weeks' time. You're going to fare well there?
Brands Hatch is one of my favorite tracks. So I cut my sim racing teeth on Assetto Corsa in a Porsche 718, chasing my friend's lap times on that track 3 years ago. Pretty much to the day is when I got my first sim wheel. So 3 years ago, basically to the day, I was learning how to sim race on Brands Hatch.
Lovely. And finally, who gets it done for you? Of course, we know you represent yourself in that Alessandrini racing car, but surely a whole team behind you helping you finish in second today, but hopefully a win next time out.
Right. You can't win them all, but you can try. My fiance, she supports me in all the late nights spent on the sim rig and working on the car and researching stuff. My dad, he's my best friend and my teammate, so can't really do it without him either. So, and there's so many other people, but those are the two main ones.
Yeah, there you go. That's DJ Alessandrini, and we'll leave you to it, mate. So I hope you have a good round and have a good 2 weeks in preparation for Brands Hatch. But Tyler, for us, we head to Brands Hatch in a fortnight's time. As we said, we head to GTs next week. But for Brands Hatch, it's a circuit that I say promotes much, not close racing, but much better racing action than Sonoma will. If you enjoyed the racing action today, well then, I mean, I can't wait for the UK in a week's time. It's in a couple of weeks' time. It's one of my favorite circuits in all of motorsport.
Yeah, it certainly produces some incredible racing. And I think that's just, really, you nailed it perfectly. If you like the racing here, you can absolutely love the racing at Brands Hatch because that track is incredibly difficult to pass, but it's also one of the tracks that promotes passing, if that makes any sort of sense. But it is a really great track to go race at. It suits these MX-5s to perfection, and it also really suits those GS Mustangs as well, with just the way the whole track works. I think it's going to produce some incredible racing. A lot of drivers have a lot of experience on that track, so I think we're going to really see drivers be incredibly close to each other over that race.
And that next race, of course, will be on the 18th of November, excuse me. I'm too busy, Tyler, looking at this GT series. It's getting me mixed up with my schedule that I'm looking at. It'll be on the 18th of November, and that will be in a fortnight's time. Of course, 60 minutes of racing action. So the same format as usual around the brilliant, illustrious Brands Hatch GP layout. We're racing around the late morning to late afternoon, depending on how it goes there. So stay tuned for that. It should be a brilliant sight, of course, in the broadcast. And it will host round 7 of 9 here with 3 rounds to go in the sports car series. And the battle for the championship lead in your ST class remains ever so close. Of course, thanks to our Apex Racing TV. Hope you enjoyed all the coverage streaming live on our associated platforms. Tyler Maxson, myself, Jonathan Simon, saying goodbye from Sonoma, and we'll see you in a fortnight's time for the next round of the Sports Car Series.